Hello, Ava.
Hello, Robert.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
To anyone and everyone who's listening, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever time you are. Thank you for being here. Well, you know what? Why don't we do this? Tell us your name and who you are and what you do and how you do it.
I'm Ava. I am an oboist in the Chicago area right now, and I am a part of the Blank Experiment. If anyone has heard of us, we're like a new music flexible instrumentation ensemble. So new music is what I do. And I reached out to Robert about doing the 15 minutes of fame because uh, oboe needs more new music that does weird stuff or whatever anyone wants to write for it.
So what interested you about 15 Minutes of Fame? Well, you know what?
Uh,
How about this? Before we do that, let me say what 15 Minutes of Fame is. 15 Minutes of Fame is we put out a call for works where composers write a 1 minute work. So, what we do is we get as many pieces as we can and we pick 15 composers who are specifically writing for a musician, an instrument, yeah, and just looking to get their pieces heard. And for this 15 minutes of fame, Ava Wirth is joining us. So that was the project, Ava. And what attracted you to doing it?
so I have a couple of friends who have done it as performers, and I actually know people who have done it as composers as well. And I've heard nothing but good things about it. And so I thought this will be a great opportunity for more oboe music because I didn't see that there was any solo oboe in the past of 15 minutes before.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love the oboe. It's a unique instrument, and it's got a lot of character. But let's talk about new music. So you could be playing classical music. Why not classical music, and why play new music?
I mean, I do love classical music the same way that I love new music, but it's great to work with people, which you definitely can't in classical. When you're playing something like Mozart, everyone's played it. Mozart isn't here to tell you if he liked what you did or you didn't do. But with new music, I get to talk with the composer and I get to collaborate with them. And I think it's a bonus too because then the composer gets to hear what the performer thinks works for them or doesn't, especially with, how instruments have evolved from classical. It's not the same.
Right.
And the oboe can do a lot more now than it could in the beginning of even the 20th century.
It is so true. I feel you talk about there not being a lot of oboe music out there, and I think it is definitely an undiscovered country, so to speak. You know what I
Mhm.
mean, with a lot of new stuff. But with that said, so what type of well, let's talk about your instrument. Why do you like the oboe, and what do you like to do on it?
So I love the oboe because I like to describe it as when you are watching a movie and they want you to cry, there's an oboe solo. So it's beautiful. I think, kind of similar to the cello, it reminds me of like the human voice in a way. But also, the oboe, we can do the shortest articulations. We are great at timbral fingerings and multiphonics. It just goes into the design of the instrument. And so flutter tongue, all of this stuff. I think everything but slap tongue, in my opinion, can be done on the oboe. And I think it just hasn't really been explored yet. Like people are starting to come out with more oboe stuff. And it's not that it hasn't been done, but I think that young composers haven't quite realized what the oboe offers to them in their music.
Sure. And so tell me a little bit about like some of your favorite pieces and things that you're talking about multiphonics. That's always,
Mhm.
it's interesting from my perspective. With all disclosure, I'm a composer too, so I love these things. But like, what sort of pieces and things do you gravitate to?
Mhm. Yeah, so actually in the spring, I just finished my master's degree at DePaul, and I did a recital of all 20th and 21st century oboe works, and it was majority solo oboe except for two. But one of the pieces that I did was Vario Sequenza, and I mean, how can you not love that piece? It's a workout, but it's just it's so fascinating to see something that's literally even printed different. It's a giant like like square of paper as opposed to just like a small rectangle. And then, you know, reading it and playing it, there's so much more room for interpretation and figuring out where the melodic lines are on your own, because it's not structured in the same phrase way that the standard piece is.
Well, and so I love Barrio. He is probably one of my top 10 favorite composers, and one of the great reasons why I love Barrio is he made it a point to, first of all, stretch boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. But also to like find a player and to, you know, throw any and everything at them to try to get to really expand, right, the instrument's repertoire. I mean, that's the sequenza pieces are, they're just boundary pushing in almost every single way. Yeah, so that's exciting. That's exciting to hear, you know. So, yeah, let's talk about Barrio for a second. So, how many composers have you worked with directly? Is that a thing that you do, or?
Yeah. So, actually, on my recital, I also gave a world premiere of a piece by a composer named Adam Kennaugh, who's also my boyfriend. So, I had a lot more time to work one-on-one with him with this music than I would other composers. But I also just recently got a piece by a friend, Michael Goodman, and he just wrote a solo oboe work for me called Panic. And so that uses multiphonics, and I was able to work with him and say, hey, this one works on my instrument, this one doesn't, because while the oboe is really good at multiphonics, they're also very finicky. So when you go to something like the Techniques of Oboe Playing, which I think is by Baron Reiter, the instrument that it was written with, like the multiphonics and fingerings don't always like transfer over for every instrument or every reed setup. Right. So that is something when working with him, I was able to say, like, this one that you want to work, unfortunately doesn't work for my instrument, but it could work for someone else.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, you know, so 15 Minutes of Fame, right? One of the sort of, what's the right word? Guide stars for it is, you know, we try to get out to as many people as possible, and, you know, so they all submit pieces, and, you know, the musicians get to like kind of review like all these different styles and aesthetics and timbres and characteristics, and, you know, composers are very varied and individualistic and, you know, quirky people to begin with. And, you know, one of the things I always tell about to composers is it's just a minute. Like, go ahead and write your heart out. Do something that that's your favorite, or totally make an experiment and so forth, because, you know, it may not get selected, right? I mean, you always want to pick everybody, right? But, you know, you can't. And, you know, we get many submissions, but you can only pick 15. But that, it doesn't always stop there, right? I mean, sometimes you see something that you love, maybe you can't play, but you would love to talk to the, it's, you know, I don't want to say it's networking, but it's, you know, it's a way to sort of get introduced.
Mm-hmm. It creates an opportunity.
Creates an opportunity. Anyway, for me, that's what it's really all about, is just creating opportunities to get new music heard and to get fabulous musicians heard.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, even if I can't play everyone's piece, unfortunately, I still want to see what people are thinking about the oboe. You know, like I said, the more people are writing for it now in contemporary settings than they used to, but I still want there to be more. Like we're competing with the saxophone. They steal all our stuff, but they're also getting a ton of music written. We don't have anything new like they are getting, you know? So write for us like you write for the saxophone, I'll say. In the output, not in the writing. But.
And so anybody can write anything for you, period, done? You know, you're not looking for anything in it. Do you want people to stretch the boundaries, or you don't care?
I mean, I love to see boundaries stretched. You know, why not? That's why I'm in new music, you know? I love to see the evolution of music, but I don't judge if it's tonal, if it's atonal. Like I said, I love multiphonics, timbral things. I I love to jam on some Bach, like who doesn't? But it's great to play Bach and then play Beria. They're just so vastly different. So I have absolutely no judgment with whatever people want to write. I just want to see it.
I get it. And that's the other thing too, right? We live in an age where we have so much access to so many different styles and things and so forth. I know some people are just like, "Oh, there's nothing new under the sun." It's like that's. I'm sure when the something new comes, we will all gravitate to it. But for me, the wonder is just the wealth that we have at our fingertips.
Exactly. There's a lot more composers now and people who can write music than there used to be. So there's so many new opportunities for music.
Perfect. Well, so and for all the composers and listening out there, Ava's call is coming up soon, but it's 1 minute, so it's easy to write. Go ahead and we look forward to hearing more from you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone has to write.
Ava, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you.